Assalamu alaikum, peace be with you, and welcome to Islam and Life with me, Tariq Ramadan, broadcasting from London. In today's show, we ask the question, sacrifice or obligation? Have we lost sight of the true principles of Ramadan?
Muslims prepare for Ramadan by engaging in spiritual activities. This is made visible by an increased mosque attendance. And as mosques become busier, so too do shops. Towards the end of the month, as Eid celebrations approach, clothing shops tend to bear the brunt of the Ramadan consumer craze. It was reported in 2009 that a record Ramadan shopping spree boosted sales in London's West End. So, has Ramadan always been a spending frenzy, or was it once a time for stable and controlled household spending? On this week's Islam and Life, we ask the question, sacrifice or indulgence? Have we lost sight of the true principles of Ramadan?
It's an important question indeed to ask while we are fasting, the understanding of why we are fasting and what should be our behavior, and how do we have to be with anything which has to do with consumption. And in a consumerist society in the West, but also in Muslim majority countries, this very essence of Ramadan seems to be lost somewhere between this obligation of fasting, not drinking, not eating, and avoiding anything which has to do with our human qualifications. But at the same time, while we are doing this, it's forgetting the sacrifice, the very spiritual meaning of Ramadan, and why we are doing so. It's to be close to the One, to be close to Allah, to God, and at the same time to be close to the poor people. And when we look at the figures, it's just astonishing that we have, the months where the Muslims are eating so much, and then they are involved in consumption in the way which is contradicting the Islamic teaching. So these are questions for all of us while we are fasting. And to answer these questions, I am joined by Sayyed Mohammad Razavi, Islamic scholar and minister of religion. So thank you for being with us today. As we have seen in the short clip and with my introduction, let us come first to this discussion about the very essence of Ramadan and fasting. Why are we fasting, and in which way we can think about it as a universal teaching for all times?
Thank you for hosting me, and as the clip and your points that you raise suggest, and they are very clear, that Ramadan initially was prescribed. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asked us to fast to come closer to Him, and He wanted us to understand the suffering of the people around the world. But unfortunately, what we see in the world is totally opposite to that, and consumerism is growing. The way Christians gradually commercialize their festivals and celebrations, Muslims are heading in that direction as well. So,
but before coming to this, because this is exactly the heart of our discussion today, but let us say something about the very essence of this is how should it be understood? Because in the topic, in the title here, we are talking about sacrifice or obligation, and this is something which is very important in our understanding of Islam. Is that some people are coming and praying, it's an obligation, so I pray. It's an obligation. It's Bunya al-Islam ala khamsin. These are 5 pillars, so I fast because this is one pillar of Islam. But this understanding that we are dealing only with obligation could mislead us from understanding the essence of the teaching. So if you have to say something about coming closer to Allah, to God, coming closer to the poor people, but why? What is the essence, the secret of fasting?
Yeah, the secret, God has invited us to be His guests. He is our host.
Yes.
And He has opened the doors of mercy and rahmah for all Muslims. And therefore, this is what we need to take advantage of. We need to uplift our moral. We need to uplift our spiritual values as well. And we need to feel closer to God. We need to re-establish the missing link between us and God through showing our obedience to His teachings, through fasting, through feeling the suffering of those who do not have enough to eat.
But the image that you used at the beginning is quite interesting. It's as if we are invited to the house of God, and within that house we should be forgetting our human attributes, eating, drinking, and coming to meditating the meaning of life, what it means to be a human being when it comes to our relationship to the poor people around us. So it's really converting our heart, but also converting our way of looking at things.
Yeah, it's designed to discipline us. It's designed to teach us how to control ourselves. It's designed to change our behavior. If you constantly do certain act for 30 days of the month, then if you had a bad habit throughout the year, you learn how to control yourself. You build confidence. It gives you confidence to move on.
To go beyond your human...
It teaches you that you have the capabilities that you cannot imagine in other months.
Yes, which is important. So why is it today that we have a problem? And what you are saying is quite true. When, as Muslims, we look at the Western societies and we speak about Christmas in December, it was at the beginning a religious festival. It became a cultural festival, a family encounters, and we are giving gifts and we give money to the poor people, but it's also the months of consumerism, and the people are buying gifts, and it's all within the capitalist system, in fact. And we look at this and we say, look, they are now forgetting the very essence, the religious meaning of this festival, to come to something which is a consumerist trend. Now if we come to Ramadan, we are under the same danger, it's the same risk that we see Muslims doing the same. So why it is that the Muslims are following in these trends and also now being much more involved in eating more, spending more than meditating more and more deeply?
Yes. As you mentioned, first of all, let me clarify one point, that Christmas was initially a pagan festival that was Christianized later on.
Okay,
but as far as Islamic,
fair enough.
as far as the Ramadan is concerned, yes, we are moving into the direction that the Christians or even Jews have gone. They have commercialized their festivals, and this is a danger sign for Muslims, that we should not had that direction. Because
but could you explain that, why the Muslims are going that direction? What is the problem? Why now, when we speak about Ramadan, we also only speak about the obligations of Ramadan? Don't eat, don't drink, this is halal, this is haram, this is lawful, this is unlawful, and then it's as if the spirit is not there, the meaning is lost.
Yeah, the real fast is that when you are able to control your behavior as well. It's not just remaining hungry. There are actually narrations that if we do not change during the holy month of Ramadan,
yes,
and if we do not uplift our moral values, if we do not come closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala spiritually and feel closer to Him, then we have just remained hungry. And remaining hungry is not the idea of Ramadan.
Yes.
It's not, the idea is to develop and improve. As Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib used to say, that we have to constantly improve in our life. Man istaba yawmahu fahuwa maghbun. If a person spends 2 days of his life equally, he is in loss. So each Ramadan we have to improve. And from beginning to the Ramadan, of Ramadan to the end of Ramadan, we have to, first of all, we have to make resolutions that what I need to achieve during this Ramadan. And then we have to judge at the end, did I achieve what the resolution that I made?
We'll come to the practical advices, because I think it's quite important who is responsible for that, because some people are saying, and many average Muslims, ordinary Muslims are saying, look, the problem that we have in this community is that our scholars are not spreading around the meanings of things. They are just spreading around the rules of things, and it's more an obligation, that the understanding of a spiritual sacrifice and a journey towards Allah, towards God. So this is something which is one dimension. The other thing which is quite important is for all of us around the world, but also in the West, is that we see that the world culture is able to integrate Ramadan into something which is making more money by talking about the nights of Ramadan and not the days of Ramadan, because the days are not interesting. The people are fasting, but the nights they don't sleep. The night that some are sleeping during the day and awake during the night and forgetting themselves the same way they are doing when it's not Ramadan. So how can we deal with this? If you, from where you are, you have something to say before coming to the practical advices, in which way we can just change this direction?
Well, I mean, ulama, as you mentioned, the scholars and Islamic centers and mosques have great responsibility in actually teaching the spiritual values of Ramadan, and they should concentrate on that. And the reason some of the youth, especially in the West, are running away is because we are just feeding them dry black and white rules and regulations. We need to teach them how to love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how to feel closer to Him, how to feel closer to other people, how we as a Muslim ummah can feel part of each other. When one part is hurt, we should feel in other part of our body. That feeling is lost, and that's why it is all more and more becoming just like a ritual rather than a spiritual experience.
Yes, and it's quite a pity, because at the same time what we see in the West is that many non-Muslims, and even young teenagers, they want to join the movement, because they see that in certain cities and towns in the West, up to 70 to 80% of the Muslims are fasting, because this is maybe the ritual which is the more practiced by the Muslims, much more than the daily prayer. So at the same time we have this very powerful means, and it's as if it's lost into something which is completely distorted.
Yeah, and I personally have experienced in our Islamic Center of England, we have non-Muslims who want to fast and break fast with us. So it is a very strong tool that if it is used in right direction or properly, we can actually pass the message. We can attract our youth and other youth towards Islam. But unfortunately, it just becomes just like a gathering to have fun or eat varieties of food, or so maybe even find spouse.
Yes, it could be. But let us while we are fasting now and people are watching and listening to us, let us be practical. If now we have to say something to ordinary Muslims, because some ordinary Muslims could say, the scholars are not coming with the right message, they always talk about rituals. Let us now here say, okay, if we want this to be understood as something which is a spiritual journey, a sacrifice of the being to be close to God and to try to serve people, what, if you can give us advices, the practical things that an average, ordinary Muslim man or woman can do to come back to something which is the heart of the matter?
Yeah, for example, in Ramadan, some Muslims do Taraweeh, and others recite Quran and read long du'as. And for the youth in the West, especially in non-Arab society, where the language is